Hello, everybody, and welcome to another lifting episode. This was recorded on 9/1/23. And as always, we open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. So, Joanna, if you want to do the long one, and I'll get to the topic here in a moment. It's very impromptu, so bear with us.
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you and nourish you and bring you to your highest good. We pray for ourselves, our friends, our family, our loved ones, to also let healing energies in, to let it love us, nourish us, and bring us to a highest good. We ask for benevolence to surround this conversation with no conflicting agendas. We ask for that in the form of friends, family, loved ones, galactics with no conflicting agenda, higher self with no conflicting agenda. And we ask that if there is any malevolence or mischievous beings that wish to interrupt or not allow for this conversation to be heard, to please help steer out those energies so that we can all talk and have a conversation that will hopefully help all of us understand a little better what is going on around us. With that, and with all the blessings that we send to you all for your health and for your highest good, please agree with this by saying, so be it.
And so be it. And so be it. So this has got me very miffed, but I understand if this was spirit that set this particular thing up, I understand the message loud and clear, or at the very least, it's an opportunity to discuss something that is actually a relevant topic within not only the channeling community, but with just mediums in general. I think this is actually quite interesting how this played out. It's very frustrating. We were out. We were out at lunch. And you know how you see on some of those shows that are out there, from something like Long Island Medium to whatever some of these other medium shows are that are out there, they get this inkling to go do something or see something in public. And they'll walk up to some stranger, or they'll go to some odd place. Or we ran into this in Vegas, where there was a weird voice from the mirage that was just leading us on a wild goose chase. And I feel this applies to this conversation, what I'm about to say as well. People, if you're in this business, it is not good to just go wherever something is leading you. Where when I was in the middle of downtown Chicago one time, I heard somebody from Spirit say, I know this person, please give him this message. No. But they were frustrated a bit. And I said, no, I don't operate that way. This isn't one of those TV shows, and I don't operate that way. I operate it like this, through session. You don't approach somebody in public and do this. We were out to lunch. And from a session I had previously, I came across a Venusian lady that was up with a product that somebody wanted me to look over, and it turned out to be pretty okay. But this cloak and dagger Batman crap gets on my nerves. Even though I like Batman, I like Mission Impossible, I'm abhorrent to some of the cloak and dagger stuff. Just be straight with me. When we were out, I kept hearing this almost like a summoning voice, like say, oh, we have something to discuss. We want to show you something somewhere. And this wasn't the forest people. At first, we speculated it was the forest people wanting us to go out to a wooded area. And we had originally planned on going to Jamestown, and we'll save that for a different day. But this, we got home, and whoever it was slightly miffed, or more than slightly miffed, that we didn't stay in public. And I always tell these beings, do not communicate with me like that in public. I don't want to open up. It's caused a lot of grief for me in the past, and I don't want to lead people back home or beings back home, because you want to be able to do it privately in your private sanctuary. And there are very few exceptions in my world to that rule anymore. And you've noticed that we used to channel in multiple places from Cahokia to Gettysburg to Boston to God knows where. And we don't do that now. And you've seen that on GSC. We were going into discussions about that as well. But this, I must say, we got home, and this being this, not the same person, but part of the same little isolated, compartmentalized group. And I kept seeing in my head while we were in public, Valley and Thor, and then we're trying to say this is compartmentalized. They were using the scene from Winter Soldier, that where Captain America was miffed that he didn't know all about a particular mission, and Nick Fury tells him, "You know what compartmentalization is." And this is essentially that scene that was going through my head. That and the other one where Loki misdirects somebody by making an illusion where he's walking and one walks away. That's usually a clue that somebody was trying to misdirect, and somebody was saying compartmentalized misdirection. And that's what somebody was trying to tell me. But in this, we get home, very evasive, very frustrating. And this opened up this topic. And this is actually good impromptu. Or one could say that Spirit kind of planned it. But where I have been directed on multiple occasions from both galactic sources and spirit sources, and or passed on loved ones, etc., to approach people in public. And we've all seen these TV shows. There's a dozen, there are a dime a dozen now. I mean, the Long Island medium one is the most popular one, but there are a plethora of ones among them. And of course, you got Dead Files, which is clearing properties. You have paranormal shows that are more scientifically based, like Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, things of that nature. But then you have ones where people are approached in public, and you see, used to see more of them back several years ago, where people were approached in public. But now, I mean, you still see a dime a dozen, but you have to look for them. But this brings up this topic where should you? And also, this goes into the closing of the circle, like I mentioned in that episode, opening and closing of the circle properly, where I said at psychic fairs where we had people going around and trying to drum up business, where they're doing mini reads on people, and that's still open the conduit. With this, it still does the same, but it is not the same area of interest of having a circle open that I'm actually aiming for, even though that is a concern. You're not opening and closing the circle property. It's the fact that you're also approaching someone in public. That's actually rude. And I've actually experienced this myself when I was in Lincoln. This was the one time that I actually did do it. And it was one of the more embarrassing situations where I was in a gym, an apartment building, and I heard one of my guides at the time say, "Go over and talk to this person, mention this, da 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 da." No. One of the worst things I ever did. I will never do it again. It was very embarrassing. This person had this bug-eyed look on their face and was very, very shocked that anybody would come up and talk to them, and was spooked. The idea is, if spirit's wanting to do something, you got to have some ease and grace in there, and you cannot just bulldoze in all those public situations. And also, if mediums are walking up to people in public and trying to drum up business and doing that, we even had a friend of ours say, try to get her to do this same line of work, and she wasn't interested. And this one person went, oh well, I guess she's missing an opportunity, doing the gaslighting, guilting crap along with it. You don't want to do that. My point is, don't ever be summoned. Don't ever hear a voice somewhere and feel you have to follow it. Don't, even if it has a sense of urgency, even if it's out in the woods. Forest people are one factor amongst dozens and dozens that could be in those woods telepathing to you. And it may not all be for good reasons. The face eaters are a prime example, because they will telepath somebody out to a wooded area. This is a famous several cases that were out there where also they found a car door open, clothes folded at the side of the road, and person gone. And then one time they found a dead naked person in the woods one time as a result. But that was a mishap that whoever took them didn't do it right. But what I'm saying is, sometimes it's not always the force people, and I'm getting a from them as well at this point, saying, yes, don't trust all these voices. You'll know if it's truly benevolent. You'll know when you've connected to something meaningful. This, it was more of a carrot and a stick, and the one in Vegas was too. We walked into the Mirage. I knew there was somebody there messing telepathically, and there's tons of aliens there. And also there's the Domes base that's underneath the Mirage. There's an opening to go to the sub areas. That's why they call it the Mirage. You know, is it real? Is it not? It's more of a opening to the Domes, and also some to Verer, from what I found out too as well. So, or New Verer, as the case may be. But this topic, it's actually quite interesting that this has impromptuly come up, and I know people will say, "Well, it's in divine timing." I do not. Part of me does not care at that point, because when we want to do something, we want to be able to do something and not be, roped into it. Whatever this other person wanted, it wasn't for us to come back here into a safe area. It was not wanting us to come back in here and discuss what we were discussing right now. It was, they wanted us going somewhere else, not Jamestown. That's for our different ghost box discussions and everything. They wanted us somewhere else. And that's not always a good thing. That's sometimes how people get abducted. That's how some people get taken, have missing time. They get this inkling to go somewhere. Now, you're going to know a difference between telepathic roping and an affinity, and also intuition. The difference is, like what I just said, what I've said before in other recordings, where if you pass a house and you feel like, oh, I must absolutely buy this, I have to have it, and then later on your finances all dry up and everything, it was a demon that was trying to get you there to stagnate you. Or if you have to buy a crystal, for instance, and you later on find out it's possessed. There's a difference between the way I bought my channel crystal that I have below right here, where I had an affinity, and there was one other one that I tried to get that was roping me to it because it had an insectoid presence in it. But the difference between that and intuition was, there's a famous story where a guy kept getting intuitive blurbs to go off this exit off the highway, and he just kept hitting him over and over again. He finally got curious. He went up there, and there was somebody that had crashed their motorcycle and was trapped under the motorcycle. And it was somebody in spirit that was trying to, and their oversoul or their intuition was telling them to go up there. There's a difference. There's a big, big difference. Somebody was trying to alert this guy, okay, go up there, somebody needs help. Could have been anywhere from an elemental to the own intuition or telepathic contact from spirit, anything. But it turned out to be good. This, I believe, was a roping. Because when we got home, whoever this was very, I don't want to say despondent. That means they were really overreacting. This was more like a point of frustration. Like they wanted to act like they wanted to show us something, and it would have fizzled out. And it would have resulted in us being frustrated or driving around on a wild goose chase, like what I explained in the TV incident on our subscription, with where whoever it was didn't want me to finish purging the discs and getting rid of them, so they caused a problem with the television, wanted us to run around trying to figure out what was wrong with the TV versus me completing the original task. This is the type of distraction I'm talking about. And this, unfortunately, is quite prevalent. This means you have to ultimately discern. And this, obviously, it was a full-fledged ET presence. Of that, I have no doubt. Because it felt galactic. It felt very telepathically oriented. Very pulling. And you could tell that it was a legitimate source. But what did they want? And this is a topic that I'm actually glad came up, because I've been seeing this a lot lately, where people go, well, I had this urge to go here and nothing happened because you were dicked with. That's why. I was being told this, don't listen. You demand it to be done in your safe space, at home, in your temple space. Not on some public street somewhere where you're wandering around near traffic, or on a sidewalk somewhere, or in a neighborhood to where some other entity could either mess with you or make you look really bad, where some cops are involved or what have you, where it becomes a targeting at that point from a predatory entity, ET, military, government, whomever, watcher, whomever. V2K. This was not V2K. This was direct telepath to telepath. And when we were at this little diner restaurant we were at, we started feeling really creepy, and we came home. That's usually a clue right there. Now, I believe there were two presences, one that was trying to kind of keep us out of that situation, one that was roping us. And one could judge our allies, also spirit versus tribunal spirit and tribunal allies versus somebody who had an overlying agenda. And this I cannot emphasize enough, because this is actually, I've gotten reports across the board of these types of things happening from many, many people. Like, well, we thought it was so urgent. It felt so urgent. Of course it did. If you're messing with somebody or playing a joke, practical joke or something, doesn't it feel urgent at the time to actually have it all right and all put in place? Yeah, it does. So this frustrates me to no end, because what if it is something truly important? This crying wolf sort of thing. But when it is something important, like with the forest people at Yorktown, when we went through there, and you'll see that on, you've already seen it at this point with the ghost box. That I knew there was absolutely no doubt as to who that was. No doubt as to who that was at all. So that's where you need to be. When your intuition is telling you everything, there are no bells and whistles. It's all pure intuition. You can feel that it's absolutely right. That's where you need to be. If you have any doubts, listen to it, because that's your intuition telling you, hey, there's a yellow or a red flag here. And this was more of a cautionary thing. It's not like we would have been hurt or killed or anything. It was more like, hey, maybe you're being messed with a little bit. And so we had to, and she thought it was the forest people may want us to go to a wooded area. I felt, though, that it was more of a Venusian source. It felt like a Venusian galactic source. We've run into similar races before that all kind of look similar. And no, Isaac, they don't look alike either. But they even tried to block him, Lane and Vesta, and forest people. But now I'm hearing all three parties loud and clear here. Whoever this was vacated. When we started doing this, they vacated. And I can see why, because they were up to no good. They were up to mischief. So I'm thinking that's where they would have left it. I don't think it was a complete series of unfortunate events where they would have disabled a vehicle or hurt somebody or something like that. I just think it's somebody going, hee hee, or somebody with an agenda that it didn't quite mesh with ours if we were at home, but it meshed if we were in public. That's also another angle you can look at. Like, bend a little bit and we want to show you something. No, you can show me from my office. Some people, feel they have to go look at things, which we do want to explore things. Yes, most definitely. Or else we wouldn't be going to these historic sites that we visited before. But there's a fine line between doing that and exploration and being roped. And this was a roping lasso. And whoever this was damn frustrated when we came around heading to the house. When you said from the diner we were at, I think we need to go back here. Whoever this was very frustrated and wanted to try to direct this to somewhere else. It's just like also a good version of this is when my mother and I were out, and she had this inkling to go into this cemetery, and we pulled up right next to the grave of her friend Nancy. And it was right there. And then we knew who it was, that they were just trying to validate who they were and saying that they were around. That was slightly different. Like when our dog Winston showed up, he was trying to alert me to an entity that had been trapped in the garage. But he walked up to where his ashes were, a point of validation that we could feel and validate and confirm. Those two instances are good. This one was dubious. So if you can feel the difference. Don't just get roped in. Just go, oh, I'm being told to go this way. Don't until you get some point of validation. And if it's a harsh, or if it's like you're getting a rub, listen to that. Don't just go, well, you got to do this and then I'll do it. No, go home.
Well, I think again, I think the word that hasn't been used that maybe will help people understand the feeling of when they need to be concerned is feeling vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I think
vulnerable is a good word. Yeah.
Yeah, because we were very uncertain as to what was going on, and we were actually starting to, again, and okay, so Chris and I and some of you out there are becoming more and more sensitive to foods. Like, okay, it's a statement.
Very sensitive.
So
yeah.
we went to a little diner that we wanted to try, and I don't normally have food reactions like I did with something that I thought was somewhat benign. So again, unsure how much of it was a food reaction or how much it was a exploited reaction, possibly, question mark. I don't know. Love for somebody to tell me. But where I didn't feel that it was safe to drive as far as we were going to drive to go to Jamestown. That never, honestly, that is so rare.
It was more of a drunkard feeling, and then one could say that that was well timed because whoever was wanting to mess with us could have been doing it out there too.
Or again, there really could have been a little bit of something going on, and it was exacerbated or something. So, you know, really rare event, and not feeling 100%, not feeling 100% in the head, not feeling 100%. And then again, confusion and, you know, a sense, I hate to say this, a sense of something trying to communicate, a sense of this, but it wasn't flowing in a natural, it wasn't flowing in that kind of way. It was flowing in confusion. It was flowing in things. So I think using the word vulnerable, feeling vulnerable is not okay. So, you know, it's kind of like we say when you have no feeling whatsoever, when there's a neutral, no feeling, none whatsoever, that's worse. But I mean, feeling a sense of vulnerable is not a natural flow, and you should listen to that instinct. And again, work on developing and putting together a sanctuary type place where you are probably feeling more protected than you ever have been. So, you know, deciding that I think we can take 10 minutes and go home, you know, and get to a place where, you know, because again, Chris has brought up many times, channeling just opening up, not good. You'd have to go to someplace safe. So we're just going to take 10 minutes and we're going to go right back home and, you know, see what this is really kind of all about. So, you know, if somebody does come in here now to want to speak about this, I think I really do want to spend some time, first of all, knowing what's happening, but second of all, really would like to discuss how it makes a person feel, that sense of vulnerability, to help people understand the importance of creating a sanctuary space, of creating a safe place for themselves. And again, learning to open and close circles, and understanding that there are these other entities that may want to interact with you, but you know, is there a conflicting agenda? And I think that's another reason why we open and do things and discuss that in the beginning, because we don't mind talking about a lot of things, but we just kind of just tell us the truth. And when we're sensing something, just be honest. And we don't like any of, we really don't care for much less than that. And showing each other dignity and respect. I mean, there's certain reasons, you know, that we've spoken about. There are certain security reasons. There are certain safety reasons where you would maybe want to fib a little. I get it. I'm not bothered by that at all, if that's really what it is. But I think, again,
it was like this person in the session tried to tell me they were Andromedan until the client they were Andromedan and his friend when working on this piece of technology, when in fact they were Venusian. And that one I did validate. So they said they were from out there when they were from here. And you've heard insiders talk about how sometimes people of the inner earth will mimic that of the galactics as well, or those from the world within worlds as well. So I think you're going to find that 9/10 of them are actually local or worlds within worlds, or the rest is going to be AI. So I think just to put that out there. And also, if you want to see the thing we did on conflicting agendas, go to galacticinterstellarcouncil.com and pay the $5 subscription, and you'll see that in one of the GIC Q&As that we've done on there. And we brought up that topic in length about conflicting agendas. So I mean, that's a topic worth exploring more, obviously. But this, man, I'm getting that creepy, like drunk feeling again. It's like this. It's like this right here on the side of my face. I feel the left side of my face heating up. So it's like somebody is not thrilled with this.
But you've heard how I feel about it. If this is a Venusian issue, I would like Valiant Thor to come in and speak about this.
Yeah, there's unfortunately, you can call out to him, and it's like it's like if you called somebody on your cell phone and you just get their voicemail. It's like,
I'm just saying this is an appropriate moment. Besides, also, it was a business dealing that the person was involved in, which isn't necessarily a bad thing at all.
And they're around in the corporate world, and I won't mention the project type, but corporate world. Whereas Valiant Force people are in there, like we even had a friend that ended up with one of those Nordic secretaries you hear about quite often, and where sometimes the Venusian people, one of the places they will go is as a Nordic secretary. We had Valiant Thor bring that particular objective up in one of the GIC Q&As as well.
The energy is building here.
It's like it takes your breath away a little bit if it's something powerful. I do believe, I believe you're correct on the Valiant Thor thing, but I thought I felt him in the car. We do have some pieces in the car that create a little smaller bubble. Ooh, wow. All right, give me a second here. I gotta fix things here.
I don't normally ask them to come through unless it truly feels relevant. This is kind of a wild little story that I would think that he would want to.
Okay, can we cool it down, please, if you don't mind? All right. I don't like the fact that my blood pressure goes to the roof here. So.
No, I don't think we summoned him. I think this was kind of something I'm going to guess that he wanted to come in and talk about. So I don't think we have
no. Okay, I'm going to make sure this is him. Valiant Thor, if you wish to speak, I got to know it's completely you. I don't want it to be whoever that other was, if you don't mind. I need true benevolent Valiant Thor with no conflicting agendas, no matter how short or long the conversation is. All right. Oof, that wants to take your breath away. That's pretty high up. So, okay. Pretty strong. Okay. Somebody with you? About your wife. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Ironically named Idaris. Yes. So, wow. Surprised you're able to get through in a retrograde here, but okay. All right. So, Isaac, you want to lend your edifice, or the forest people, you want to lend yours? Or do you need it? No. Okay. Okay. Cool down, please. Yes, this is Valiant Thor. I did witness the session at hand and in question. There are different ops, and I know this is going to be more of a YouTube-ish type of question answer. Yes, you were picking up on someone who did want to, he says rope, and that's not completely false. That was communicating with you at the diner. Your feelings you had with feeling dizzy were both an allergic reaction to the food contents and the sensitivity of the food contents, and someone raising that level slightly higher than the norm. you get allergenic reactions all the time to things and not really care too much. You will in the later days, unfortunately. But this was somebody that wanted you to drive to a place. I won't name the place. You two would have eventually intuited it out, but you intuited much sooner and knew that this being may have had a carrot and a stick or wild goose chase in mind, very much like the Mirage, as he says in Vegas. They forget I am here in this area as well, and I do not like this type of roping. The presences that have been around you of late, both good and not too good. You have run into a variety of things from fairy curses uh, to other ET intrusions, ETs masquerading as other guides, holy figures, etc., and a plethora of other agendas. You have elementals, you have some of my own people, and in the session, it was one of my own people running an op. But in the case that you've run into now, where you had to get rid of the, let's just say, the shade, as he calls it, of the shade or shadow of the other being, did you harm that other being? No. When you did the normal, but did you get the point across? Yes, you did. This was someone, and you'll run into other ET species out here. This is quickly becoming a causeway or a hub, not unlike Salem, but this is an area that is you're going to see more and more ET activity as time goes on, of all kinds. So this is where I can take questions.
First off, I just want to ask, is it my perception or are you exerting more energy to be able to do this today?
Yes, AI intrusions are not to my liking. This is because of your retrograde garbage, as dear Isaac said, and he was not wrong in on your Galactic Interstellar Council when he said that the retrogrades are purely AI intrusions. I believe Bob said the same when he was speaking as well. This is exerting more and more energy to do this. This is why we recommend a more universal communications arc network like what was had in Arizona. It was much easier to do that. He has the personalized ones out there currently with their own mark and signature. This is great, but one that is more of a tripwire to these sorts of things, it would be even greater. Even though you don't want too high of an orgone field, one that can be used as a central point is actually advisable at this time, especially during these times of year. And be leery. I don't want to say be leery. Wrong choice of words. Be careful around your Samhain time frame. Very excellent time of opening and dropping of the veils and everything. Halloween, you would call it, or All Saints Day, or All Hallows Eve, but be careful and cautious around that time. The voices will be at their loudest at that time. It is you would say, clusterfuck of or a menagerie of different voices, types, and you will come across good beings as well, no doubt. But the bad ones aren't the only ones in circulation, and also agendas that are conducive to your own are not only the only ones in circulation either. I think that you found this evident. This other being was not evil. This other being was mischievous and had their own agenda to keep you away from the obvious. So this is also why you had the inkling to go home. Going out to Jamestown would not have been a smart move today. Yes, it's good you put this off. This is why there were other delays prior to you leaving. Forgetfulness of items like he did with his wallet and ghost box and the like. This is no accident here to keep you in the house. He thought it was a negative force trying to keep you close to home, to delay from doing the work there. Sometimes it's not always that. Sometimes the there is the roping, and the other thing causing the small series of unfortunate events will be more of an ally source sometimes. Sometimes it's the other, but this time it was me.
Well, I think again, it's kind of confusing right now. I'm just going to bring this up because I would like to refer to it properly. When we're dealing with these retrogrades, I don't know any other way that maybe that we should start actually ourselves only referring to them as artificial retrogrades, because I hate it when people get roped into something when you're in the midst of there is something going on. It's not what you think.
It's not just it's co-creative, yes, being enhanced by AI, yes, but there is actually an artificial alignment going on, yes, but ultimately it's AI induced signals that will align to a particular moment in time so that you anticipate, oh, I guess this is going to be rough, it's another retrograde.
Right. Right. And so it bothers me greatly, again, that it will kind of rope you into a certain mindset, rope you into an agenda, when actually what it is being induced to do these things. So we have to acknowledge the fact that it really is happening, but it's artificial. And so I think, that maybe Chris and I should, if we're bringing it up, and Chris has legitimately brought it up a few times, that we're going to have to put the word artificial retrograde in
Think
front
of
of it.
this as in your social experiment category that you spoke about before. This is one of the largest of all time. He picked the COVID thing as one of the largest of all time. It has nothing on elements of astrology. The astrology is legit. It tells the alignment of planets. Absolutely wonderful. When you get a big clock in the works of different consciousnesses aligning, the planetary consciousnesses aligning at certain times of year. Yes, are those certain times of year PowerPoints? Absolutely, especially your Halloween. Absolutely, but Isaac was correct about that. That's Christmas has nothing on Halloween, but with this, you got to get the term retrograde out of your head. People always anticipate mayhem, basically like mayhem like me, like the commercials. They always anticipate that kind of crap around a Mercury retrograde. It's like, oh God, here we go again. Yes, that's a natural thought that one could have, since this belief has been indoctrinated into your culture since the 90s. And astrology's been around a lot more, but it's a legitimate concept. But when you're dealing with AI timing, they can time it to those particular alignments and then make you think that it's only going to be worse. It's kind of like people's belief that an Armageddon or future alien, fake alien invasion has to come before the 1,000 years of peace, or before you get disclosure or technology. Somebody's trying to get you to co-create that and get you to consent to wanting something like that. Some things they need mass consent for, and that is one of them. Retrogrades are another. Even though there is overage, some overage behind it, you can put an end to it by gracefully going through it.
And again, and understanding, kind of like what we were saying about our little bit of a food issue we were having, there was something real based underneath it that was accentuated. And that's what we're trying to say. We're not, again, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think this is probably one of the strategies that has been used, obviously, as you're alluding to, bigger than anyone can understand throughout the times of humanity being here, is how something is taken naturally. So there is a natural belief in it, but how it's accentuated for someone else's agenda.
Just like your tower busters you currently have in the car were pushing against some of those toxins that you ingested, which is a natural ability of the shungite and other elements within those tower busters. So therefore, even though you had a safe space in the car, it may sometimes will make you feel ill because the toxins themselves are being converted, or the antigen is attempting to undo or uncreate the toxin, or the stronger torsion field winds, as what you would say, to try to convert the toxin. And it's a slow moving toxin with a fast moving energetic field. It sometimes can make you go. So yes, this is also another reason, but it was mostly the other source that was doing it.
So I am curious in this particular instance, because it seems that what Chris ran across happened to be something that, again, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, something of legitimate, potentially helpfulness that was really present, that was really there. I'm assuming that's a true statement.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's
And-
of no doubt, yes.
but then wrapped in some, I don't know what other word to use. There was deception. Now, I don't understand why there was a need for deception. I am sure there are moments when there is need for some of the deception.
Oh, yes, we leave it up to that particular compartmentalized project and or Nordic secretary and or liaison on how to implement said assignments. Even if it means denying my presence, even if it means denying their original heritage. It's up to them as to what strategy works for them. We don't have a tight rein on that, or don't rope them in on something like that. This being said, they were from Andromeda, and I want to tell, even with your public audience here, about the whole Andromedan Council of Light, boogie boogie. This is not a legitimate concept. This is a huge set of channelings that's taking place right out in the open. Same thing with the Pleiadian Council of 9 or Council of 12 or whatever the hell number they're using now. These are two falsities. There are beings from the Pleiades. If they say they are just Pleiadian, you have to question them. That's just like what he does. He always says, which one? And that irritates people because they've been indoctrinated to believe that is the race name. No, that is a word that was given to humanity a very long time ago, and it's one that's been incorporated into your culture. Yes, there are Pleiadian beings, but they have different planets, of course, and different civilizations. And he is not wrong when he surmises that 80 to 90% of what people are communicating with are the worlds within worlds, locals like myself, or artificial intelligence. He is not totally wrong. These are glass ceilings that now have to be broken, but it is for, it will, as you would like to say, it will not be this day because it's too big of a topic.
But even saying you're local, can I just clarify meaning of the solar system when you say local?
Yeah, so you know, I may have years ago even fibbed about my origins being of the Pleiades, and I said this years ago. And this I'm profusely apologetic because, but not because you guys discovered that beings use this bit of subterfuge. Just like what I said on GIC, if people want to see this, it is about the Vanera Seer War where Venus was Vanaheim, and we had the genetics mixed with Asgardians. We were always local from day one. So if we're local, who else is?
Well, I think that's the $64,000 question. I think, I'm assuming, again, we're not saying there aren't other races from other worlds that are further away from our current local solar system. But right now, it seems to be that it is, people may think they're communicating much further away when they're really not right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I don't think you realize how difficult it is to go vast distances. I know your idea of the force is that it has nothing to do with heavy or light, like what Yoda said, like, oh, it's too heavy. And Yoda goes, you think I can't lift that? This is actually true. Quantum, yes. Anything everywhere all at once, everything everywhere all at once. Multiverse, yes, you're dealing with that too, by the way. Seymour was correct on GIC where he said that you're dealing with everything everywhere all at once. That is absolutely correct on his part. This, though, and I'm about to actually burst of another bubble here. This does involve yourselves with beings that you have communicated with, even in more, not necessarily recent days. That's the wrong choice of words. Within the past few years. That again, this was more dimensional than other solar system. This was more worlds within worlds rather than other planetary. You see, planets are think of them as sometimes a closed or an open door. A world is dimensional. It has a dimensional presence, like Asgard had its physical self that got blown up, which it still has its physical self dimensionally, but it was more the opening or the doorknob. You have worlds and or you have planets out there that lead to worlds. You have other solar systems, yes, of course, that can lead right back here because Earth is a nexus, and also there's been the Bifrost from the Asgardian times. Some of the beings that even before the switch over on GIC back at that time, we're actually fibbing to you as to their origin point. As today with the Venusian lady, first she said Andromeda, then she said Beta Centauri. Neither was true. And also, you hear insiders talking about those from Alpha Centauri. Yes, some are legit. There are some Alpha Centauris doing this, and there also are planets out there where there are other humans transmitting this direction. You knew one as New Haven. That's a topic I will go into at some other time because that warrants its own show. But the other groupings, you have some from the Boots, you have some from Hercules, you have some from Perseus, which is a very populated area, by the way. Then you have some that poses this. One of which, I must say, is a dimensional race that coexists with you within the worlds within worlds. You would call them the Toroth. They've gone by multiple names. As Guardians visited them within the worlds within worlds, they have a planet known as Cadenum, which is near the Boots. But for the most part, they are right here with you from the worlds within worlds, like Asgard. There are others from the Pleiades that just outright yanked your chain over the years. There are others that were telling you mostly truth, but a different location, very much like my dear sister person. Then you have others that communicate with others, like they say they're from Andromeda. Are there being a lot of beings out in Andromeda? Yes, I myself have actually witnessed this. Did he see an expanse he knew as the Argasa expanse out in Andromeda, where there's this gigantic space station? Yes, that does exist. Are there many beings communicating from out there, if hardly at all? No, because that galactic pathway was severed many centuries ago. Very much like in your Star Wars Ahsoka, where they said they were trying to build a gate to another galaxy, and that trade route hadn't been active a while. That was actually a clue as to a cutoff. Like in your Stargate Atlantis, whereas they went to the Pegasus galaxy versus the Milky Way, and there was no further pathway between until they built an intergalactic bridge, where they were rebuilding. It's about rebuilding links. It doesn't always mean that the beings from there can communicate like that. And are these beings, and here's a bit of a shocker, are these beings communicating directly from the damn solar system by which you are communicating from? No, not always. People always say they're reaching out to the Pleiades. Yes, you can do that. And is it possible with equipment? That's why you see some with little crystals attached to their head. Is it possible to do this? Yes. But the level of AI intrusion and draconian intrusion that you've had makes that nearly impossible. But they also, if people would look downward, they would notice there are reptilians that stand around with crystals sticking out of their damn forehead. And this is something they're linked intricately with the artificial intelligence. They are attempting to throw people off as to what is actually possible, available, and out there. So when you call out to a set of beings, you've been doing it correctly with true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. But if you're just saying Pleiadian Council of 9 or 12 or whatever the hell number they're using now, or Arcturian Council of whatever, and are there many species in the Arcturus as like a federation? Yes, but you've also encountered elements of them. Vessa brought this up as well, and Elena brought this up as well, where they called themselves the Council. Think of some of them as more hedge betters. I don't think you want to get to know 3/4 of them. They're kind of dubious as far as I'm concerned. And then you have the GF, of course, and you have the Mayan Federation and them. Some have great people. Captain Kanshanak, one of the best ones of them. Chawanda, not so much. And I don't blame you to throw people into the bus, but some are more apt to lie than others. Or even if they did a little, like I did, sometimes it was for a reason to keep himself away from something, or to not get noticed from the cancel culture, or not to get noticed from external targeting sources. That I have no regrets on, because I do things my way, as I've said before, and I tend to circumvent GF policy, as I've said before. It is more or less keeping safety, and also on both sides. But I can tell you now, I am not fibbing as far as certain things go. Just know that 9/10 of channelers are not getting what they thought they would. And he was thinking of something in his head this morning about a particular one. I will not name it, nor will I let him. It's where somebody was channeling a passed on loved one that was somebody who had died, a child, and then was giving back information about galactics. People in spirit can see what's going on. The questions were about Sasquatch and mermaids and whatnot, and they were saying, this boy was saying, "Oh, there's no such thing." Wrong. Just like on a channeling that you saw by a group on, I'm going to not name the network, of that was saying the giants of the earth are no longer present. Now that they all starved to death or what have you, dragon, Sasquatch, any of them. These are not legitimate sources that are coming through at all. And these are in major public channeling sources. These are Orions with agendas and other groups with agendas that we try to steer you guys away from. Network sources, you would call these groups the champions, and agendas they're in. And if anybody asks what a champion is, it is an elected, and I do say elected, unbeknownst to them 3/4 of the time, elected individual or group to bring about a particular disclosure agenda and or a particular channeled spiritual, pseudo-spiritual agenda. And this is coming from the two of us at the moment. I'm defining it more clearly than what he knew, and what you knew as well. But this is where I currently am at.
So sometimes you recognize those elected people, but if you look back to the history of how they come to be and look at the shows they've been on and different things where they just start validating one another. It's not like,
yes, so you will notice this pattern. They all validate each other.
They'll validate each other, have each other. You'll see on certain shows, and all of a sudden they're showing up on the shows, and all of a sudden they're there showing up. It's very interesting, the technique of how they do it to push forward the ones that they want to now be able to bring forth the message that they want to bring
You're forward. Seeing an agenda in the midst of itself being displayed as to who will be the validators and vetters of anybody trying to come out saying either something contradictory or in favor thereof. Yes.
So I have to bring up some of the things you've been talking about, and I will tell you that this is just the human phrase eating Chris alive, in a sense, the concept of gatekeepers. So when we have this conversation and everything that you've just revalidated, I think the frustrating part about this is to have to understand, and again, my curiosity, my question after I say this to you is, how long has this been going on? Because it feels like it's been from the beginning. But
yes, you are correct.
But what I want to bring out is the fact that when we talk about galactic history, when we talk about the wars that led to the destruction of the planet, that had then screaming souls that were being collected up to then be reused, right? The false reincarnation cycle on Earth, all of these things that really happened over 500,000 years ago. This is a long, long time. That some of this, I'm assuming, gatekeeping had to have been set up that don't allow people to be able to go out this way. And again, as you're saying, the gatekeepers are there looking for anyone that's going out this way, that it's really been in existence for a very long time.
And think of gatekeepers to Asgard. You had Heimdall, they were the guardians at the gates. Then that morphed after the taking over of the system by the Orions to that of your St. Peter mythology. That is AI, gates of a processor. That's your moon. The gates, whether you go into heaven or hell, they're both Saturn. Sorry, but or at least they were. Now there are other little trap locations that are popping up like whack-a-mole and weeds. And of course, you know about the soul trade. Then, of course, what other concept do you know of has a gatekeeper? The church. You have priests. You have those that intercepts information that way. Look at how your church started, the confessionals. Those that were said to be in confidence, yet they use it to blackmail people and gain a lot of power back in the day, from what you understand in your known history. All these, there's gatekeepers all over the place. You have your New Age mafia, as he likes to call them. I will let Houdini speak for himself in his own little channeling. He was hesitant at first, but the time has come, I suppose, where he attempted to stop some of these things, knew about gatekeepers, and you know what happened to him. But in other areas where you have seen this, in areas you don't expect, yes, I'm in full favor, as he says, tighter circle, deeper roots, and you wanting to validate and vet your own information. Yes, from their perspective, at times they are doing this, but also know that in areas where this is happening, there are other things going on, other watchers in place, other attributes to agendas that are in place you know nothing about, that have nothing to do with what it is you're trying to get past the gatekeeper for. You've run into this. You ran into this in your Prescott, Arizona. You ran into this in your Globe. You ran into this in other places as well, where if you did not match the information there of that particular group, therefore you were basically something you would wipe off a shoe or rub off a shoe on a mat. This is essentially it. They did not want in some cases, you to interrupt that flow of information. Some people didn't want you wrong because they thought that the new information was wrong or dark, as you know, with a shifting of frequencies or separation or splitting of densities. That's still true. Then you had others that were on ops that they thought you would have disrupted, because you, especially he, can see through multiple layers of agendas. He disrupted even his SSP time. He could see through multiple layers of agendas, no matter what the people were disguising themselves as. And he saw, just like he saw what he thought he was interfacing, or was told he was interfacing with an insectoid, but it was a person. You know them as Ludwig, that was inside of an insectoid body, and he wasn't supposed to see that portion of it. They were testing his ability to see through things. This is also can be a dangerous ability as well, because you see everything that's a lie and everything that is an untruth. This can also lead to targeting. This can lead to misdirection, and can lead to other forms of gatekeeping as well. This is why this has been popping up like whack-a-moles. It doesn't mean that always the groups of people are bad. They are just careful. They're cautious. And at times, yeah, they want to keep their own private covens. And that's not always a bad thing, but it's not always a good thing either. And you run into everything and all in between in this area. But the concept of gatekeeping, it can be very frustrating, especially when you know the truth about something and you can see the multiple layers, and they think they can. And even if you were to question some of them, they go, oh no, you're mistaken. This is this way. Even if you know it as that way, the other way. It can be very, very frustrating. I've run into this myself multiple times walking amongst humans. And it can be very frustrating, yes.
Yeah, and I need to bring this up in the business world. So that is your world. That is the world that you're working in right now. But to see what, yes, having gatekeepers, I've been trying to struggle myself because of certain things that I have been exposed to lately, personally in the business world, and actually trying to figure out agendas, in what, because
you've run into this exact concept,
right?
yes.
Because you have what's being said. It's like speaking one thing out of your mouth and acting in a totally different way.
See, they want to do one thing and you're doing it the correct way, and they don't want to do that. You see, in the medical world, there is a patient cured, a customer lost, and this is what you've run into.
So it's an interesting concept. Also, just again, a money grab. I hate to say there's
They want accounts. That's what they want.
right. And so, a money grab and just get in there, look like you're doing something and get out. Although it's an arena, some of these businesses can be within an arena that if you have any sort of empathy or any sort of consciousness or any sort of right or wrong, it'll beat it out of you if it can, which is
That's a Nazi. That's a Nazi technique. Yes,
it is true. So I've seen it myself and seen what it will do to people. And if you think you are trying to be a change agent that you thought that they wanted, they said it, they speak it. When the other forces come down, it really can be, I believe what happened to me was my own version of shock and awe. But I will say that it also happened very quickly, because one of the things that Chris and I did is we tried to bless the land around the area of where I was working. And boy, did it raise its ugly head within a matter of 2 weeks. And to be quite honest,
yes, the magic that was done expedites these things. They were not comfortable with your presence, because not only the vibration that you present and the frequency value that you present there, but they wanted a status quo business as usual. You were in there questioning everything, which you should, which people should. If you're in a job, you must question all of these things and motives, and not just be a bobblehead. Just like when he discovered that one of his retail jobs was trying to get them to be money converters and violate federal law, and he pointed it out. They were attempting to commit a crime and peg it on all the little workers, and all the little workers were just going to go along with it. You don't know how many times, even in a single year, this happened, and people go to jail for these little things, and they wondered what they've done wrong. They just did what the boss told them. You cannot just do what the boss tells you. You have to question these things, especially now. There are so many layers of onion layers of agendas in place, even micro versions of this and other variables in place you know nothing about. I'm not saying be an asshole to somebody that doesn't deserve, like a boss that's just trying to run a company and you think you can do it better, run your own at that point. But I'm talking about the real ones that have a real foothold in real agendas that are taking place in the private sector, that are also military based, that are non-civilian as well, that they may have an op in there. And also you could have a good guy watching out for you to get you away from one of those scenarios as well. I myself have witnessed a couple of these things around you, both around groups of people that you've both been around, both online and others, that I've had to reel it in a little, even though it may seem frustrating to yourselves. And as for other business prospects and with other allies, there are these dangers on that side as well. That is all I will say with that. But on your side, implementing this as you have been doing magic-wise is making a big dent, bigger than you realize. Even if it seems in millimeters and centimeters, those millimeters and centimeters add up. And he says, if you're building a house and you're off in your measurements by a millimeter in one place, millimeter in another, and a millimeter in another, eventually that becomes a centimeter, eventually that becomes inches, and eventually that becomes feet. And the house is actually a house of cards that's a tenuous build at best, and it falls over in a wind. So this is what's going on.
And I know, when some of these things happen to people, and it's a very uncomfortable place to be, and you have to make decisions of what you will and will not tolerate. You do have to make
ethics and morals at all times. Yes.
Right. That it can really nail you. It can really do some lasting effects. However, if you wanted to know, if you really wanted to know, as we've wanted to know what is really going on, then you have to understand that you may have asked that question, and some of the experiences you're going through are to answer the questions that you have actually asked. And then the next questions come about, what do you really want? What do you really want this world to be? What do you really want? And unfortunately, being exposed to some of this and to actually see it for what it is, you know, you will never change something unless you see it for what it is. And then you can make the decision of how do you really want it. But I think there's many people right now that are questioning it and are wanting to know what's really going on. What's real and what isn't real. What is a, you know, what is a firm foundation and what isn't a firm foundation. And so that, in my estimation, it's kind of an interesting thing, because I believe one part, the part of benevolence, let's say people's highest good, are allowing this chaos to occur, even though people are screaming for a savior, just because to answer the question and help people see what's really going on.
And you wanted to know the truth, and you got it.
Right.
This is essentially what is being shown to you. Now you're presenting this truth will irk some people off. They'll think, no, that's your truth. That's what you want. No, that's not always necessarily true. And you see that in your political arena as well. Would you want any of this chaos to take place? I would hope not. But you want truth. And sometimes chaos is a close bedfellow to truth. This is what is actually currently going on.
Right. And the fact that chaos is used to cause confusion, to, you know, beat you down a little bit, to wear you out. It's a part of it. So you have to really understand. I don't think I will ever believe that it means that we're going down the tubes again. I actually believe that some of this uncovering has to occur, as uncomfortable as it is, so that people can see it for how it is, so that they can actually make the positive changes they actually want. So I do, agree with that. So I think the big question is, I think I'm going to just guess what Chris would be wanting to know. Mm-hmm. So when you're in a situation like this, where some people are being able to see things a little different, to see that beings have been utilizing humans' belief systems and introducing it and putting themselves into their current belief system, even though the belief system is wrong. So, but now you have people that are starting to see that, wait a minute, you weren't truthful. Wait a minute, you weren't this, weren't that. My question is that, you know, what is the galactic community thinking? Because I guess to us, it would be say, okay, you can drop the charades now. Now, can we finally get to having a decent conversation, a truthful, respectful one, or whatever? And there seems to be, I'm sorry, resistance from the other side.
Yes, you are seeing things correctly. There are a multitude of races out there that want their resources, want to run their charade, their way. Just like I always say, I do it my way, not in the Burger King way, like Isaac keeps reiterating, but in my own way against the GF. They want it done a certain way. I would like it to change. In this, you will have other races that will test, and you've had this done to yourselves multiple times by other races, testing not only the resiliency of yourselves and your family members and your social interactions and experiments and whatnot, but you'll have those that want to see how far they can take it before you want to, say, kick them in the balls. That, you would say, is a dick move in that way. There are others that will give information as far as codes, codexes, all this other stuff. You've heard Elaine Invest talk about this. Yes, unfortunately, did they get thrown into that mix? Did I? Yes. So did Isaac. Yes. But now a real conversation can be had. Yes. Could you have done it any less public? No. Because you had to learn when you ask for truth, you get it. There are certain foundational concepts that were always part of this hedge betting, that were always part of either a gift from the stars or others that would turn you guys into yet another champion. You had to learn fully about this concept to avoid. So avoiding some public redaction was not possible because of the depth of the information. Now, lot of what you have been told is true, but there were these other things that were narratives, stories that went right along with some of the New Age belief systems. And this is also why you had to part ways with the forebear. So, because the fact that you need to have real conversations. Now, the real conversation, I know this it would be more dubious to say a listener that was not necessarily in the know and they're seeing something shift and change. They're thinking, how do we know this won't shift and change again? And that is a legitimate viewpoint. And they should be saying that about all of them. And those people, should be saying that about the galactic community. And this will be a big what the fuck moment for some of those people. Some that are in more famous positions have followed this breadcrumb trail nearly as far as it can go. He said he's even encountered one that were giving planetary evacuation messages, and he was meeting with these galactics all the time. Even myself, by the way, this person claimed this, and this person truly believed this. But I had virtually nothing to do with that. And also, though, this person was saying, well, I wish the galactics would stop lying to me. You have to stop wishing it and demand it. You are not talking to holy beings that deserve reverence. You are talking to other flesh and blood people that need to level with you. Doesn't matter where they're from. They need to level with you as to what their true agenda is and what lies in that. Just know none of you or none of them, and I'm saying this to them as well, none of them are giving any of you gifts. None of them are giving you any breathing room in your own space. None of them, and I'm saying that community, that they're either the for or against, or also there was that crop circle that popped up years ago that said, beware of Greeks bearing gifts, so to speak. And it was a picture of a gray. There was a bit of an agenda in there, but he came across a gray recently that had a uniform on that was trying to get him to channel, and another voice he heard the other day that he rightfully refused. And this is because you are going a different route with this Galactic Interstellar Council wise and the lifting, respectively. There are truths that need to be said that could not have been said in the original format, in that forming of a champion concept, staying in the new earth, new age. Yes, there are planetary changes, always have been. Not part of that ascension into 5D narrative. This is why he himself was uncomfortable with the word and with the phrase into 5D at this point in time, and it should be redacted as he believes. Are there different dimensional states? Absolutely. Are they faster and slower moving? Could they be measured on a number scale one of these days? Yes, and are there multiple universes that could also be put on the same scale, like your Marvel Cinematic Universe does with different numbers and comic universe does? Both DC and Marvel, absolutely. Star Trek, Star Wars, eventually Star Wars will go that route too, because it's showing a truth across the board. Is it as you believe it to be? No, it's other people that channeled this information or were given it by galactics and then delivering it to mankind. And at that stage, it just became part of the riffraff of champion building. And this is where I'm at with this.
So what's kind of been said, alluded to here, because of this new path of wanting more genuine and real and just genuine, authentic conversation, again, with no conflicting agendas, with none of that. Let's just talk about, kind of what we can all agree on is, kind of the facts about what's going on. Again, this isn't new. I think I keep trying to say this to people, because when they hear that, of course, a fear factor will come in, and, doom and gloom will potentially come in, and this, that, and the other. But the truth of the matter, there's nothing new going on. There's nothing new going on except for people becoming more aware of wanting to know what the truths are, and they're not learning the truths. But it's not like humanity was wiped out 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago. And it's not like humanity is going to now be wiped out because people are becoming more aware of the situations around them. I can't help. I always want to reiterate that, because that fear will cut on, and it will cause some people to go backwards. They will go backwards to what they feel is a safe place. So I just want to know from your perspective, does humanity, with awakening to some of these things that are really going on, what should they fear?
What should they fear? Do not necessarily fear what is out there, with the exception of being schmoozed by, again, the champions, but also on top of that, fear, I suppose you could say this word applies. What narratives are coming down the pipe? What are you following? Whom do you serve? Know what you serve and why. Don't just apply your name to a concept like he likes to say. Some people called themselves an Anon based on QAnon because they were really basing it on the idea of freedom in some area or truth of information. So they based their name on a concept or put their identity in that. Do not ever do that. What you should fear is what you've invested your identity within. What have you identified as? This is what you should fear. What you should then come to terms with is the truths surrounding this and the real concepts surrounding this. Yes, are there different ways to interpret a truth? Yes. Can you take like, say, a red apple, for instance, and have 100 different people describe it 100 different ways? Yes, but it is still a red apple. In this, it's the same with the information. Just like you ran across people wondering what a teacher was really meaning when in fact they meant what they said. Yes, so there's symbols within. Has a new age group been to blame for touting a lot of this? Yes, and is it true? Are there some true symbolism and synchronicities? Absolutely so, but you're missing a lot of the real ones a lot of times out there, people, because you are wondering, what the universal truth is in a lot of things. Sometimes it's what's right in front of you. Like your theater of puppets, they're right in front of you. Sometimes the truth that is right in front of you is scarier than anything you're dreaming up. That is what you should know is truth, and that's sometimes fear can be a guiding light because because the New Age group tries to get you to separate yourself from it, and rightfully so in some areas. But sometimes it can be intuition that is telling you not to do something. And you're going, well, no, I have to be stronger than that, but so I have to do this. Wrong. Sometimes that level of strength can be your undoing. Sometimes your intuition, and all the time, your intuition must reign supreme. Even if you could possibly conquer that mountain, even if you have the ability, doesn't always mean you should. And just because it is there, doesn't mean you need to do it. Now, to break a glass ceiling, yes, at times, and at times no. But what should you do in cases like this? Do not follow known narratives. Use your intuition and your heart and mind together in critical thinking formats. But keep the fear at bay, but don't not listen to it if it should come up. It's either telling you that if you're spooked by something nearby, it's telling you energetically something is there, or that something is wrong. That's why it is there. Doesn't mean that you get rid of it. It just doesn't mean that it just means that you don't always let it rule you. Just like anger should be there to react to something that is properly needing to be integrated. It doesn't mean you let it rule you. There is a major difference out there.
Well, thank you. Well, I think we're going to end this conversation today. I just leave it open to you to talk about anything you would like to now put on the table.
Mm-hmm. Yes, people may be unhappy, of course, and rightfully so, but all these agendas, just like you see people not paying attention to the alien agenda because they think that somehow it's a distraction against the whole Epstein client list, let's say. But I can tell you right now, all of these are narratives, distractions. It is monumentous that the government's talking about aliens, but remember, it would not be out there unless they decided to leak it. It's not by some miracle that it happened. Will it backfire on them? Absolutely so. Will this narrative backfire on them? Absolutely so, because it is opening the door. Hopefully, they're hoping that they can put their own information on the other side of that door, but it is opening up other Pandora's box or can of worms that they themselves cannot account for completely. They think they can because they're egocentric and arrogant, and sometimes stupid. But, well, a lot of times. But in this, just know that when you open that door in yourself, you're going to actually see, when you step outside of these narratives, you're going to see how many onion layers there are and how many there are not. Sometimes there can be the appearance of more, sometimes there can be the appearance of less. Know by how you feel about something, and not by bias or indoctrination, how you feel about something, by how it hums, or it has lack of substance, or it's tight, how you feel about it. If it doesn't seem right, don't go for it. And that doesn't necessarily mean by indoctrinated beliefs, by your own intuitive inklings. Just know that there are things coming down the pipe that people will not be pleased with one way or the other, depending on where they're at in their own lives. Just though some people will be upset by one thing, other people will be pleased by another. I cannot go completely into it, but just know that I'm not trying to plant a seed or co-create. Just know if you don't want something, if you do not want something to occur, don't just say thy will be done. You make it stop. It is up to you. It is not up to some higher power. It was always, the power was always in your own hands. Thanks to Freddie Mercury's words, the power is in my own hand and it's in yours. Or Masters of the Universe, I have power. You do. And I'm not quoting anything else. I'm just saying this is how it is. And do it your way. Thank you. Ooh. Oh, okay. Yeah, he was absolutely correct. There's a lot of narratives out there and a lot of this roping going on that you're seeing it all over the internet. I mean, it is flooded throughout the internet, and we personally have also run into these concepts of gatekeepers, and it's frustrating to myself personally because when you're in the know about something and you run into, say, a priest, a priestess, or some church or some gathering of people or what have you, and you know something, you know a particular truth, like say, be it from spiritual concerns to SSP to aliens to any of it, and you run into people that have not been privy to the updated information, either by a long shot or by a little bit, and they're the gatekeepers or the keepers of the flame. You're going to see that episode that we put on GIC about the keepers of the flame. I would suggest going to see that. But it's frustrating to me personally when you see these clicks and gatekeeping instances where you cannot access a particular community because you're having to pass a gatekeeper who thinks they are vetting you when you feel you should be the vetter. And I know that sounds egocentric of myself, but that's where I personally am at because of all of the level of the layers of experience that we've had over the years. I don't feel I should have to be vetted or gate kept, and that's, I know, is an ego response, but on my part, but that's where I'm at, and it is very frustrating to run into this over and over and over again, where you have these people that intercept you and won't allow you to have access. One person or a few that won't allow you to have access to a greater community. It's because that community has told that one individual or two individuals to intercept all newcomers. And it is extremely frustrating. And it doesn't matter what field it's in. It could be something simple, or it could be a spiritual community. It doesn't matter. Or even UFO enthusiast community. There's always a damn gatekeeper. And I know it's tighter circle, deeper roots, and you have a right to vet things as you see fit. I realize they feel they're doing it from their perception. They're enacting tighter circle, deeper roots, but sometimes not. Sometimes they don't want somebody to change that information. We've run into people even in some areas locally that are uncomfortable with our presence. Some are very comfortable with our presence. Those are the ones you want to gravitate towards. But as far as gatekeeping goes, you all probably know exactly what I'm talking about. You run into interceptions on the phone, but also amongst different communities. You're running into one individual that meets with you, sizing you up. It's more of like a job interview before. And I also, years ago, and I will say this, I will not say the names of the people involved in stuff I encountered years ago, talked to an individual on the phone that's very famous in these circles. And it dawned on me real quick that this person was acting as a gatekeeper and more of a job interviewer. And I declined this person because my intuition was telling me don't. And I'm actually thankful that I didn't, because it would have granted, it would have put us in that greater community, but what would that greater community try to mold our information into versus ourselves doing it right now? What would that have looked like in the past 6 years if we had lent our voice in that champions community or by ourselves? What would that have looked like? And I think it would have looked vastly different than now. They probably would not have been too privy on us questioning the stuff that we are questioning right now. But just know I've run into that from that community 2 times in my lifetime. One minor, which were 2 more micro-sized type of talks, and one bigger one. And I saw it as more of a job interview or a vetting each time. And I don't feel I should have to be vetted. So my truth, I am where I am, and I'm seeing things the way I see them. And I'm also seeing things in more of an unbiased way in that way. And that I feel, I can't speak for her or my family, but this is where I personally am at. I know I've been wrong on things, and I've admitted when I was wrong on things, but I don't feel that someone who has less of information in some way should be the vetter of someone who has a more broader understanding. And I'm not saying that out of ego, that's out of just knowledge and experience. That's not an ego thing right there. So this is where I'm at with this. So this particular concept, you can, take that as you would like. But with that, well, I believe we can call this here and do the last affirmation and blessing.
Yeah. Well, we want to send blessings, great blessings out to everyone. We hope that you take those and you take the healing energies and have your moments of peace and being able to rejuvenate and understand that, getting out and just having meaningful moments with people and being brave enough to intuit when you can have positive discussions and when things will be accepted. Please take those chances, because what you're going to find out there when you go into the communities, you will find like-minded people. You will find people that you can communicate with, and you won't feel so alone, because that is part of the issue right now. People feeling so alone with all of this information. We certainly understand those feelings that you may be having, but we send great love, great healing, great peace to you right now. And just know that you are not alone in any of these feelings and the confusion that you're in, that you're not alone at all in this. And we hope you enjoyed listening to this discussion. These are the things, real life, that we're going through, that we're discovering, that we just want to be able to have an open conversation about. No shame, no blame, no guilt, that we can have these conversations to try to really figure out what's going on in the world, seen and unseen around us. So we hope you guys have a great day, and we look forward to having a conversation with you again.
Yeah, so thank you, everybody. This was a great impromptu conversation, even if that's what that being did not intend. This is what more was overall intended in the end. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Oh, synchronicity today. I won't mention the name of the diner we were at that day. But today, as we were out, we were noticing that there was an old location for this place and a new location. And it kept, over the past couple days, or past few days, we saw one opening, the other one closed, opening, closed. It was weird how they're doing it. Something was trying to get that in my way to publish this particular, or work on this. I'm editing at the time I'm saying this now. Obviously, this is in there. So, on the Vox Arca Agendi episode, somebody was trying to throw a synchronicity out there. I just wanted to put that in there to actually remind me to do this. This was literally the next edit in line. I didn't know it was the next edit in line because I've been working on a buttload of other things. But it was the next one in line to be edited. And that was this. Before I knew that, we were recording something else. We were recording the show on Roanoke. And also we were out and saw that particular diner. Again, I won't throw the business under the bus. It wasn't that great. So I don't want to give anybody a bad review, but still. Maybe in person, people encounter me, I'll tell them the places to go and don't go, but not on here. So, but that was a synchronicity that popped up. It was weird. One building would be active and then sometimes vacant, and then one building would be active, sometimes vacant. Since then, I wasn't paying attention to it, and it popped up again today, and that's the synchronicity. So, weird. It was just something weird that got our attention. So it is 2:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, September 16th, 2023. Thank you.